Remain seated, please. Permanecer sentados, por favor.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Our largest single-theme land expansion ever.
Now we want you to share with us our latest and greatest dream.
Matterhorn Matt presents Matterhorn Mondays.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 140 of Matterhorn Mondays, coming to you live from the Outpost. I am your host, Matterhorn Matt. Jeremy, are you there?
Alex is not here, so I should be here now. No?
Oh my gosh.
Yes?
Jeremy, there is such a huge delay on your voice at the moment, Jeremy. I think if you leave the call and then rejoin, that should work. Guys, it's a test run,
I don't think that'll work. That's not gonna.
The show must go on, everybody. Oh my goodness. It's all falling apart. But what else is new on the show? We thrive here on the Matterhorn Mondays show on technical difficulties. Jeremy's back.
But for how long? That's the question of the day. So Alex is might be surprising us on a little bit, but so for the time being, I have now been re-promoted from third wheel back to temporary co-host. I move back and forth, very fluid.
Well, we are once again excited to have Mr. Rodney back on the show. Why don't you go ahead and say hello to everybody listening and watching?
Hello, everybody. I'm back for the second week? It's been a week.
Yeah.
It's been I feel like
what a week!
Back from the war.
Yeah. But we are excited to have Mr. Rodney back again. And like Jeremy said, Alex was supposed to be here, but he forgot that he had some kind of birthday thing. He's hoping to join us probably maybe halfway through the show. We'll see if he ends up popping into the call. But for the remaining, I don't know what I'm trying to say. For now, it's all three of us, and we are excited to get into the show. But as you all know, links to all of our social media will be down in the description below. And if you'd like to be wished a happy birthday live on the show, you can do so by clicking the link down below. Filling out the Google Doc, go ahead and click submit. You can fill out your name. You don't have to use your full name. You can use a username if you'd like. Your name, your birthday, and we will add it to our birthday calendar here. And I don't believe we did birthdays last week. So last week we have on the 21st, Sunday, Mitch Mullivan's birthday. Happy birthday to you. As well as Tuesday, the 23rd, Alejandro's birthday. And we have two birthdays last Thursday, the 4th. Avery's birthday. I don't know if that's our Avery. That's always in the chat. If it is, very happy birthday to you, Avery, as well as Jasmine L's birthday. And that's it for last week. And we do have one final birthday this Saturday, the 4th of July. It's already going to be July this week, you guys.
Oh my god.
That is absolutely that is absolutely crazy. But this Saturday, the 4th, Autumn's birthday. 4th of July.
Right.
Yeah, happy birthday to Autumn. I don't know if she's in the chat. Probably not. But yeah,
probably
happy
not.
Birthday. Probably not. But happy birthday to everybody else who did not submit their birthday. Like I said, down in the description, you can click the link. And you all know the drill, you guys. If you'd like to voice your opinion on any of the topics we have at hand, go ahead and call 575-386-5814. You can leave a voicemail. We will be listening to them live throughout the episode. We're very excited to hear what you all have to say on the topics that we're going to be discussing. And I think that does it for this week's announcements. Jeremy, do you have anything you'd like to say before we get started?
No, let's do this. Let's get into it.
All right. Well, Rodney, do you have anything you would like to say before we get into today's show?
No, I think we can get into it.
All right. Well, I disappointed you guys once again. I don't have any Snapple on hand, so
Oh my god.
we can't do Matt Snaps.
Thank
this
God
week,
they
you guys.
actually never responded to our sponsorship,
No,
request because you would have not fallen through with that.
If they would have, then I would have
fall flat.
100%. I would have gotten a Snapple tattoo. I would have gone all out. But this week, you guys, I'm very sorry. No Matt Snaps. we haven't done an Alex in the Parks in quite a while. But I guess that's sort of...
Well, why do you think that is,
Yeah,
Matt?
I wonder why. There's no Alex in the
I can't imagine why.
Well, either way, Alex can't even because he doesn't live in California anymore. So, rest in peace, Alex in the Parks, 2019 to 2020, I guess. We might try and find a successor to Alex. But anyways, before we get into the main topics today, it is time, of course, for this week's News from the Peak.
We now present to you News from the Peak.
All right, News from the Peak. Everybody, we have some great bits of news today. First, Margot Robbie. I think that's how you pronounce... I never know how to pronounce her name.
You're good, Matt. You're good. You're
okay.
fine.
Margot Robbie cast in a new female-led Pirates of the Caribbean movie. So this is very interesting. The film is to be written by Birds of Prey writer Christina Hodson, and they too, of course, did work together on the Birds of Prey movie. And this film is reportedly supposed to be separate from the previously announced reboot of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. For our second bit here of News from the Peak, this is the most exciting for me. The NBA season is set to resume at Walt Disney World Resort this upcoming July 31st. So that's not in a few days. That is a month and a few days. So I'm very excited to have the NBA season back. And this will include 22 teams, including 16 playoff teams, and 6 more teams as well. And if you guys would like to have more information on this, links to all the articles, of course, will be down in the description below. Yeah, I'm a big basketball fan. I'm very excited to get back into the season. And for our final bit of News from the Peak, new monorails are coming soon to the Tokyo Disney Resort, and they will be appearing on around July 3rd, I believe. These new Type C monorails will be more accessible for guests with easier to grab hand straps, more space for wheelchairs and strollers, altered lighting fixtures, and easier to access observation decks. And all trains on the line will be replaced with these new Type C ones through 2024. And there's going to be a link to a video down in the description as well for all of you interested. But News from the Peak, you guys. Jeremy, what are your thoughts on any of the topics here that we so graciously climbed the mountain of the Matterhorn to get for you guys today?
It's sorry, my adult ADD. Someone's messaging me. Okay. So, it's interesting. Those new monorails look really interesting. I've always been curious. The Tokyo monorails always look so different than what we think monorails are here in America with Disneyland and Disney World. It's such a rapid departure from the sort of futuristic, and it sort of embraces pure Disney, and so it's really interesting look. As for the Pirates movie, we'll see. She's a phenomenal actress, and if anyone can sort of breathe new life into Pirates as a franchise, as a film franchise, I think she certainly can. So it's a matter of we'll see. I wish I followed basketball to be as happy as you are about that, but I have nothing. I can't even fake contributing anything to that conversation to you.
Well, thank you for being upfront about it, Jeremy, and not trying to lead us on with your words when it comes to basketball. But Mr. Rodney, what are your thoughts on any of the topics that we discussed here for News from the Peak?
I'm gonna have to agree with Jeremy. I have no idea what anything consisting of basketball. No information at all.
I guess
I don't really follow
outlier
basketball.
then.
You know what? It's fine. But I'm happy for anybody that is into that, because and I'm curious to see what the logistics of that is going to be. Basketball aside, Disney accommodating them and everything. Margot Robbie, Birds of Prey is probably my favorite DC movie right now. Loved it when it came out. I'm glad the writer is hopping on board to that. Honestly, the more I hear about this, new kind of Pirates franchise that's being developed, the more I get excited because, I'm an advocate for, the park stories being accessible to everybody. And I think this is really a chance to get those stories out there to people who, maybe have never even set foot in a Disney park, and really a chance for them to start over and maybe get a little closer to the source material instead of branching out like the original franchise did.
Mhm.
And who knows, if this is successful, we may finally get that Haunted Mansion movie everybody has been badgering Disney about for about a couple years. Monorail wise, I love how they look. I love, the extent of theming that Tokyo Disneyland, um, kind of puts in every aspect of their park. It just seems, they keep they keep kind of topping us at every single, aspect, and it's frustrating, but I love that. I love that, and I'm always an advocate for making anything better, and I'm glad that we're kind of looking at what can be improved at every park around the world, and I want to ride these. I love the insides. I love that they're accessible. Accessibility, especially nowadays, is very important. And they still keep the heart of the theming, and especially the old ones. I love the old ones and how they incorporated the Mickey Mouse design, and this looks no different.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love it.
All right. Well, news from the Peak. That has, of course, been this week's news from the Peak, you guys. Great pieces of news, like I said. And, but we do have some even greater pieces of actual news to get into this week. So for our main topics, our first topic, of course, will be Disney announcing the Princess and the Frog retheme for the U.S. Splash Mountain attractions. And followed up, we will, of course, have the COVID news headline rundown, and our supplemental second topic for that will, of course, be Disneyland's resort opening has been delayed. And then we will get into this week's attraction retrospective, which Rodney was so gracious to pick a great attraction to go ahead and retrospect on this week. So I'm very excited to get into that. And you guys, it's been okay. Well, I have a joke planned. I have a joke planned for the Disneyland
All right.
postponement. I was gonna say
everyone at home, just humor him.
Please humor me, please.
Oh Lord.
I was gonna say it, but I'll save it for when we actually get there. But we do have, like I mentioned, a very interesting first topic to get into. Like I said, Princess and the Frog retheme to the U.S. Splash Mountain attractions has been announced, with Tokyo, the Tokyo version, possibly soon to follow. And Disney announced Thursday morning that the classic Splash Mountain attractions at Disneyland and Walt Disney World Resort will be rethemed, retrofitted, whatever word you guys want to use, to the Princess and the Frog film franchise. And this announcement comes after calls and petitions for the attraction's Song of the South theme to be removed due to the negative racial connotations associated with the source material. Calls for the attraction to be rethemed were sparked by the movement across the country aimed at destroying systemic, I almost stumbled on that word, I'm sorry, racism in American society and popular culture. Now, let's go ahead and take a pause right there. I'm very excited to hear what all of you guys have to say. Let's go ahead and start with Mr. Rodney here. What are your thoughts on the Princess and the Frog retheme? And it's funny because we just discussed this last week too.
We literally just discussed this, and like a few days later, they were like, "Oh, here you go." So it's kind of creepy. I don't know if they were listening to us, but if they are, good for y'all. Yeah, you know what? I will admit I did not expect this to happen. When we were discussing this last time, I was just like, it's impossible. They don't want to go through the hassle of hearing everybody, complain and all that. But I guess they don't care. And they were like, "Look, we can do it." And I'm extremely happy with the precautions that they took.
Yeah.
And and the kind of feedback that they kind of worked on. One of which I know I made a point to talk about last time was having a Black Imagineer head this attraction, which they do have a Black Imagineer heading this attraction, which I'm extremely happy about. We almost never hear about these hear about these people behind the scenes working.
Yeah.
And they made it a point to be like, we hear you, we are representing you not only on this ride but in the conceptualization and behind the scenes, which is fantastic. And that made me even more happier to see this. Now, do I wish that we would have got more? Yes, but I will take what we can get. I will. I'm definitely excited that we're getting more representation in the parks, and the concept art alone looks beautiful. I'm glad they went with
Yeah, it does.
the like the Spanish moss, and I'm glad they made Mama Odie's little tree house the kind of centerpiece, replacing the tree, the root of the tree with that is probably the smartest thing they could have done. And um, I'm extremely excited. I want to see how this works out. I can't wait to see what the story is going to be. And one thing that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, not with the company itself, but people kind of think this was a stunt with the whole movement and everything going on, and I don't think people realize how long it takes a concept to be fleshed out and to be announced. This has probably been in the works for, I think, max like a year. It doesn't take a couple of weeks to, especially with concept art that detailed. It's never going to take that short amount of time to come out with something. And we've probably been not even realizing that they've been under our nose kind of planning this for a while. And I'm extremely glad that they heard everybody's concerns. I'm extremely glad that it's not a book report ride. I'm glad they're
Such
going
a great way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah, basically, because Tiana's a frog for 75% of the movie. We don't want to see a frog
Yeah.
jumping around, for half the ride. I'm definitely curious if they're going to include certain characters. As we know, Ray and Dr. Facilier are dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard people say that Facilier may come back as like a shadow, with the lift hill, or they may incorporate voodoo, which is, I'm glad they're looking at every aspect of New Orleans culture, especially me coming from a Creole family. You rarely see, mainstream culture kind of highlighting that. Mardi Gras, everyone knows Mardi Gras, and I think that's definitely a way you can package up this ride and bring it to audiences around the world. Theme wise, everybody's been jabbering about Frontierland and how that's going to fit. Tiana's been in Frontierland for forever. I remember when the first movie, when the movie first came out, they had like a whole like jubilee. They had that showboat attraction, not attraction, it was a show, with them walking down in Frontierland, and nobody complained then, so I don't think they should be complaining now. I mean, it fits. Aspects of New Orleans culture definitely stem from the West and all that, and it's it's animals. Animals kind of fit anywhere within Disney at this point.
Yeah.
New Orleans, especially New Orleans Square, going back to my home park, Disney. I'm curious to how they're going to classify it, because it really could go either way. It could go Critter Country or New Orleans Square. I hope they go New Orleans Square, because to see New Orleans Square expanded in any way would be awesome. My favorite section of the park. I think there's definitely a lot of possibilities to come out of this. Tiana merch is definitely lacking at both of those resorts, and hopefully this brings like maybe a store, a souvenir shop where we can get a lot of Princess and the Frog merch. I know everybody's talking about Tiana's Place. I don't think we'll be getting Tiana's Place. Maybe it'll be a facade. Maybe it'll be like an entrance, or maybe this is going to bring a conversation of bringing that into the parks. Especially they're gonna Disney's very calculated. You're going to see how this works out. Maybe expand it. You never know. But yeah, I'm definitely excited. Now, I hope the qualities will be up to par. I think they kind of jeopardized those when they uploaded that Beauty and the Beast back behind the scenes videos, and now everybody wants that type of quality in this ride, especially the animatronics. I definitely want to see Tiana animatronic of that caliber, and I'm just extremely curious on how they're gonna kind of translate this and how they're gonna continue the story without making Tiana a frog, Tiana and being a frog for 75% of the ride. But yeah, I'm definitely excited. I'm glad they proved me wrong, and I'm glad they followed the correct steps to make this, a good fit for the parks.
Yeah, I agree, and I should have prefaced this as well. The ride is supposed to take place after the film during a Mardi Gras sort of a celebration that's happening. So, so she hopefully won't be a frog for the entire portion of the ride. But Jeremy, what are your thoughts
any
here?
portion.
Any portion, yeah. Jeremy, what are your thoughts?
I am equally as surprised as everybody else. I did not think. I think you could go back 2 weeks ago to my tweets, and I literally have a tweet that probably said like, while we're talking about changing Splash Mountain, I don't think Disney's going to do it, but nobody thought this was coming.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that this was in the back of their heads for a year is, well, I think that's a good thing, and it shows that they're working on it, and I think the creative team behind it is really exciting. And I'm also happy that Tony Baxter is able to evaluate his work and learn and grow and contribute to making this, because, and I think I saw this has sort of been part of the discourse, if this intellectual property had existed in the 80s, he probably would have used it then too, So it's and I think, and I'm always known for being a harsh critic of using IP, but only incorrectly, only when I feel like there's other ideas to explore. This is probably the best integration of intellectual property in years that I've seen. This will work wonderfully, especially since it's sort of a post. It's not a book report. I'm stealing that. That's a new phrase. It's a wonderful phrase. Book report attraction. Literally, Little Mermaid is like it is a book report. It's literally a book report. Anyway, that's so good. So I think it's really promising, and I think and what I've been hearing, is it true? There's going to be new music. It's not going to use the music necessarily from the movie. Was that just a whisper I heard?
It's half I hope and half I hope not, because there's definitely some scores from the movie, and especially like the musicals. I definitely hope they incorporate some songs into that, especially Mabel Evangeline, Almost There, Down in New Orleans. There's just so many things that they can pick out of that, and I do hope that we get original music too. But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely welcome to mixing new and old music, especially in the Disney ride.
Yeah, I was wondering that. I was wondering that as well, whether they were going to be using the music from the movie, because it did say it was going to be taking place after the movie. But yeah, very excited. Like I mentioned, this film is set to take place after the film during a Mardi Gras celebration, and the project is being led by Christina Carter, the Walt Disney Imagineering senior creative producer. Charita Carter, yes. I don't know. What did I say? I don't even know what I...
We just accept you the way you are.
It's okay. It's okay. We all make mistakes.
We're just gonna move right on. The Walt Disney Imagineering senior creative producer, who is also on the team behind Disneyland's version of Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, and like Jeremy mentioned as well, Tony Baxter, creator of the original Splash Mountain, will be joining the team for creative counseling. Guys, it's been a long morning. Creative.
We accept you the way you are.
Oh my god. Okay. Splash Mountain will still be open at the Magic Kingdom when Walt Disney World, I guess if Walt Disney World reopens on July 17th, and the closing date for either coast has not been announced yet. There was no sort of tentative opening date for this retheme. was just announced just a few days ago. But yeah, I, for one, like everybody mentioned, I'm very excited. I love Princess and the Frog, the film, and I'm very excited to finally see Tiana be represented, properly. It would be great for her to have her own original attraction as opposed to like just a retheme. But this is still good too. And like we mentioned before, the Oriental. Jeremy, were you going to say something?
I'll wait for you to finish.
You always do that breathe in thing, and it always confuses me because I always think you have something to say. Okay. Well,
I do, but I'll let you finish.
Okay. The Oriental Land Company, which of course operates Tokyo Disney, has stated that the plans to remove the original Song of the South theme from their Splash Mountain are only in the discussion phases. So, very excited to see if this continues on over in Tokyo, and that sort of is all the information surrounding that. Like I mentioned, very excited for this to happen. But Jeremy, what were you gonna add anything there?
Yeah. So I just think that tonally, the score of Princess and the Frog, whether there's new songs or using songs from the films, will work wonderfully with the sort of layout, the bones, the structure of Splash Mountain itself. And I think the idea of those songs being in this show building, I guess that's the right word, with this infrastructure is actually, I think, really promising. And I think it'll be a huge success, of course, if they do it well. And of course, in my mind, I'm already going, it's that cross between, I hope they use songs for the movie, but I also hope there's new songs. But I'm already in my head going, this song could go there, this song could go there, this song could go there. And so I'm really excited, and I'm also, one thing that was really interesting about the way they made Splash Mountain feel unique in Frontierland versus in Critter Country was in the orchestrations. And in Disney World, the orchestrations for Splash Mountain were very backwoodsy and very country and very western to fit Frontierland. Right. And in Disneyland, it was very Disneyland orchestrations. Like, it was not even fit to a land; it was fit to the park. And I hope they sort of do that again, because one thing that's really great with the infrastructure, with the tone, with the layout of Splash Mountain is that I consider it one of those rides that reminds you like you are at Disneyland in a way, like it grounds you sort of in that present moment. You have moments where you can look out and see the park. And I hope that they play with the orchestrations like that with Princess and the Frog, because I think there's a really great opportunity to instill that even more so in this new version. So I'm really excited, and I'm also excited about, I think they should go full out. I think, yes, let's expand New Orleans Square. Let's explore other aspects of Louisiana, of New Orleans, and get rid of Hungry Bear, and let's actually build Tiana's Palace. I think
I'm all for that.
It must happen. It must happen.
And like Hungry Bear, it's a good restaurant for what it is. But having it has the bones to be a full sit down restaurant. It has the structure, and I believe if they just section that off, I love Winnie the Pooh, but if we have to sacrifice Winnie the Pooh, I will sacrifice Winnie the Pooh.
I'll sacrifice Winnie the Pooh for something better.
I would,
It already sacrificed Country Bears,
and it's fairly recent too. So I think it's definitely expendable. Not saying that it's not a good ride, because it is. I go on it every time I go, but I realize that this, Princess and the Frog is a hefty story, and Louisiana overall isn't just New Orleans, like you said. This is this area could become like a bayou area, because the bayou makes up a lot of Louisiana. It's very swampy and like Spanish moss, just like what you expect. And Tiana's Place and even like more shops could even be integrated in there if they really put their mind to it. And like music wise, I do think that they could kind of maybe do a reverse of that. Disneyland could maybe be more of a jazzy type of music feel, because it's right next to New Orleans, right next to New Orleans, and make it and then Walt Disney World, make it a Walt Disney World type of soundtrack, because you can't really make Princess and the Frog Frontierland soundtrack because it just wouldn't fit. So I think switching that would be a good way to orchestrate that too.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah.
Yes, I absolutely love New Orleans Square, and I'm happy to see that this is going to sort of continue on that land and expand on it. So very, very excited, but I'm also excited to hear what you guys in the chat and the comments as well have to say about this. And of course, 575-386-5814 if you'd like to call and leave a voicemail about this topic. But I think if you guys are ready, we can go ahead and move on to our next topic. And
fine with me.
Of course, our next topic will be the COVID. We still don't have a name for this segment. The news rundown of the week.
COVID rundown?
COVID rundown. Here it is.
This week on Matterhorn Monday, Matt and company continue their reports and discussions on COVID-19 and its impact on the Disney company around the world.
Here we go, everybody. We're back.
Best.
COVID rundown. For our first headline today, Disney's D23's Destination D Fantastic Worlds event at Walt Disney World has been postponed this year up until next year, 2021. So if you guys were hoping to go ahead and visit Destination D this year, you're going to have to wait another year, I'm sorry to say. For our second headline here today, Disneyland Paris annual passes to be automatically extended by 5 months to make up for the park's closures. 5 months, that's a whole... I wonder how much money that would equate to in terms of like the passes. Anyways, that's a lot of math, but third headline here, Florida governor is not rolling back Disney reopening plans, and we might possibly touch on this later on in our second topic when we discuss Disneyland's reopening. And fourth here we have Jock Lindsay's Hangar Bar and other locations across Disney Springs close after the state ban on-premises alcohol consumption. And of course, links to all the articles will be down in the description if you'd like to have more information on everything. This is just sort of where we run down the headlines, because if we discussed everything in depth, we'd be here for, 5 hours, which I'm not opposed to, but Jeremy is very opposed to.
Which we've been close to before.
We've been close to, yeah. And for our final headline here, the Actors Union has asked Disney to delay the opening of the Florida parks as well. So a lot of controversy surrounding that. And of course, that's a great transition into our main COVID headline topic that we're going to be discussing today. The Disneyland Resort opening set for July 17th has been delayed. And guys, we've been off the show for so long. Disneyland announced an opening date. We missed that in covering that. And then they announced the delay date, and now we missed that again by a week. So there's that. We're very excited to finally talk to you guys about this because, of course, Disneyland did announce the July 17th reopening date for Disneyland Park and, of course, California Adventure. I almost forgot the name of the park. Disneyland and California Adventure were set to reopen on July 17th.
We love you the way you are.
Thanks. We're, of course, set to reopen the 17th of July, which... little date, in case you guys didn't know. Fun fact, that's Disneyland's birthday, you guys. I bet you didn't know that. Fun fact. Yeah, and that was postponed by the reopening date, was postponed by the state of California themselves. The announcement of this postponement comes after many petitions and calls from union leaders for the theme parks to remain closed. Now, I guess we can sort of pause right there. And if you guys want to, you can go ahead and read, of course, this lengthy statement that Disney tweeted out on all of their social medias. From my understanding, Downtown Disney is supposed to be opening as well. That opening is still going to be happening, but it's just the parks that are going to be remaining closed. But yeah, I am flabbergasted, you guys. I'm flabbergasted that Disney is even announcing reopening dates for the parks. I'm flabbergasted that Walt Disney World has not been postponed yet because, of course, if you guys have been keeping up, there's still a pandemic going on, you guys. The curve...
a huge one.
A huge pandemic. Yeah, the curve has been going up, so it hasn't flattened, not even close. So I, for one...
not even close. Yeah,
Yeah. It's just very interesting to me, and it sort of brings up the question as to whether Disney announced Disneyland's reopening date for the 17th, whether if they were confident in that date or if maybe they knew that the state was going to postpone, because from my understanding, California is one of the states that is sort of on the rise when it comes to like the virus, as well as Florida, I think, is up there as well. Which, you know, the two Disney states, of course, are the ones that are the ones that are still going up. But yeah, it is just very weird to me that they announced this opening date. I mean, of course, we knew it was bound to happen eventually. We saw Hong Kong, I think, reopened a few weeks ago. Of course, Shanghai reopened, and I think even Tokyo announced that their announcement was. I get all the parks confused up here, but yeah, I get. But you could, of course, make the argument that overseas the pandemic has sort of waned down a little bit. They've gotten it under control. A lot of the people have been, of course, following the social distancing, the masks as well. If you look at the charts, you can see that the virus transmission has been going down as well. But if you compare that to just here in the States, it's very clear that we do not have the virus under control in the States whatsoever. I think even one of my friends' dad, I think his dad or something, just here where I live, got tested positive for it. So it's still happening, you guys. And Jeremy, I would like you to make heads or tails as to this announcement of Disneyland reopening, and of course the announcement of the postponement of the reopening. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think Disneyland is making the right decision in postponing. Southern California has sort of surged as we've begun phases of reopening. And Los Angeles in general, I know the Orange County is in Los Angeles, but Los Angeles County in general has become the new sort of hotspot for COVID-19. And so I think it's all around the right decision. And it's the right decision for the public. It's also the right decision for the cast members who were not even consulted about the reopening date and spoke up and said, look, I don't feel safe to go back to work. You know, numbers are rising. I don't feel safe to do that. And I don't want to be forced to choose between putting my life on the line and feeding my family, feeding myself, you know. So it's very complicated when you rush reopening, but you don't have it under control. It actually causes more of an economic issue than, locking down. But the thing is that, I don't want to get too political, so I'm going to skip over that. So, with Florida, we saw a 9,000 case increase in 24 hours a few days ago. And I think that should be warning enough, not just to the, wait,
Jeremy,
I'm waiting for myself to return. Okay, I think I'm back to normal. Okay. Am I back? Am I back?
Yeah,
okay.
You're
Am
back.
I still here? No, whatever. My computer. So the and that should be a warning. The 9,000 case increase should be enough for the Florida governor to do something, and it should also be enough for, I think, for the Walt Disney Company to lead the way and say, look at what is happening in your state. We are not reopening. I don't care what Universal's doing. We're going to lead the way on public health and public safety.
Yeah, very interesting. Mr. Rodney here. What are your thoughts on Disneyland delaying their reopening?
Being a California resident and being relatively close to Disneyland, I'm like an hour away, maybe like hour 30, depending on traffic. But I think it's the right decision. Orange County in general is pretty much handling this like really badly, and that's the county where Disneyland resides. I think like Jeremy said, the safety of CMs and the public at hand is very, very important. I don't think it'll be too far off. There's it's been stated that the guidelines are for theme park openings are going to be put out after July 4th, so I don't think it'll be too long. If they follow the procedures, make sure everybody's safe. I see it maybe opening around like August, maybe September, but I'm not going to say that concrete because this is all speculation. Um, but I think we're all eager to go back. I'm eager to go back, trust me. But
Yeah.
if it's gonna affect the safety of the people working there, if you don't have the cast members, you don't have Disney. That's always been the core of the parks and Disney as a whole, is that you need to have a good workforce. And if they don't feel safe going back, then you need to take care of them and their needs before the guests. And I know that it's always guests, the guest comes first. But if, like I said, if you don't have a cast member team on hand, nobody's going to be happy. And especially you especially need to make sure the people aren't spreading this and causing a bigger problem for California as a whole. But like I said, I'm glad that they were listening to the unions and the cast members, because I know I have a lot of cast member friends and people that are friends with cast members, and they said that they were really concerned. They were really concerned that it was too early. The pandemic started around like March, April,
Yeah.
and it hasn't really gone down. It's had its down moments, but it keeps going back up. And I think Newsom felt the pressure, and I'm honestly glad they did. Like I said, I wanted to go back. This is my first year having a pass, and you know what, either way it works out, because like I said, cast member safety first. We're all getting, if you chose the option, you're getting your passes extended anyway, so there really shouldn't be a problem with it.
Yeah, I also haven't had a chance to use the annual pass that I bought back in December. So that,
I
that
know
kinda
it's
sucks, but-
so frustrating.
Yeah.
but it's whatever works for everybody's safety.
Yeah, I mean, and of course I think it'll get extended. Well, anyways, this is also again very interesting, because Disney did state that the official reason that the opening was delayed is that the state of California will release the reopening guidelines after July 4th. So they'll release the guidelines for the parks to reopen. I'm not sure if that is only theme parks or if it pertains to like restaurants or other services. I'm not 100% sure on that, but they'll release the guidelines after July 4th. And apparently Disney said that that's not going to be able to leave enough time for the resort to correctly adhere to the guidelines, because from my understanding, the guidelines would be released the 4th of July, and then if they were going to be opening on the 17th, that would only leave I'm not going to try and count from the 4th to the 17th, but you guys get it. It's not really
the way you want.
it's not really a lot of time for the resort to properly train their cast members, which again sort of brings me back to my point. Did Disney fully intent on reopening on the 17th, or because you would assume that Disney would know that the state would be releasing the guidelines on the 4th of July. Would they not, if they were going to be announcing the reopening date? That just sort of doesn't really make a lot of sense to me when it comes to that. So either way, like I mentioned, Downtown Disney will still be reopening on the 9th of July. It's just, of course, the hotels and the parks will be remained closed. Will not be reopening, you guys. So yeah, like we mentioned, we miss Disneyland as much as all of you guys, but we've been saying here for a while, it is, of course, best for the parks to stay closed, especially because, it goes back to theme parks just having a lot of people, of course, in them, a lot of people, and you can't really social distance in a theme park. Like, either way, you're going to be crammed next to people no matter how low they reduce the capacity. You're still going to be near people, whether it be in the queues. You're still going to be, however, 6 feet apart from each other. But restrooms, I'm sure, I don't know. It's all very confusing, very logistical, and I can imagine how hard it is for Disney to try and figure out, the proper way to go about this. But yeah, I guess I should say I fully support Disney postponing the the reopening date here, not reopening on the 17th. And that does, of course, move us back to Walt Disney World Resort, which is still planned to reopen, I think a few days before. I'm not 100% sure. I don't have the dates pulled up. A few dates before the
July
17th.
11th, I think.
11th.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, Disneyland Resort is mainly a locals park, whereas Walt Disney World is, of course, the tourist destination, vacation kingdom of the world. A lot of people come in from not just out of state, but out of country as well to visit Walt Disney World. So it's just very strange to me that they're going to be reopening even the Magic Kingdom, where most of their traffic does come from like outside of the U.S. from tourists from all over the place, and it's just sort of begging the question: how many people would even show up to? I'm sure a lot of the annual pass holders would, but yeah, Disney, postpone the reopening of the Magic Kingdom, please. I am fully in support of that. But yeah, I guess we can sort of transition to that as well, Mr. Rodney. What are your thoughts on Disney possibly even postponing the reopening of Walt Disney World Resort as well?
You see, it's going to be harder now that they, had this reservation system.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
People are making reservations. They kind of made a problem that's probably not going to be able to be addressed properly.
Mm-hmm.
And it is going to be harder if they did want to close Magic Kingdom, because then they'll have to offer people, alternatives and all that. And like I said, hopefully they prove me wrong, but realistically, I don't think they're gonna, especially if their governor isn't making them close it. I don't think they're gonna close it. Florida has made it a point that they want to reopen, since they're like one of the biggest tourist industries in states, in the U.S. right now. So I don't see them stopping the opening anytime soon. So, I mean, hopefully they at least make an effort to strictly enforce those rules, no park hopping, which is, it's sad. And, I don't know if they're going to implement that at Disneyland too. I think it's, park hopping at Disneyland is a way of life, because, they're right across from each other.
Yeah.
So do I think Disney will... Oh, sorry. Do I think Disney should postpone opening Walt Disney World? Yes. Do I think they will? No. And it goes back to what Rodney was saying with they already have a reservation system, and it's going to cause a whole bunch of guest services problem. But here's the thing: if it's like a 15,000 case increase in 24 hours in Florida, if it gets really bad, then I feel like they're going to have no choice, right? I mean. And I can tell you that by doing nothing, the state, that is, it's not going to get better.
Yeah.
So either the state has to do something, or I don't know. But I always hear this logic that it's like, oh yeah, it was 9,000 increase today, but let's wait and let's see what happens. Yeah. Okay.
It's
but
ridiculous.
That's not how, the countries that have gotten it under control to the point where they can go back to life as normal for the most part, not fully, they did something about it. Did I freeze? I got it. I keep freezing. Hey. Okay, am I back? Was I always back, or
you were always
freeze,
back,
or I don't
Jeremy.
freeze?
Typical Matterhorn Monday today.
Humiliating. So the state of Florida, it has done the bare minimum, and I can go into all my theories as to why, but that's another conversation for another platform that doesn't have to do with Disney news, shall I say.
Well, yeah, like Rodney mentioned, they already have put out their reservation system, so that would be very hard. I don't know. I'm trying to think, because like Jeremy mentioned, if things get worse, they'd have to post. I mean, it'd be the right thing to do, right? But would they actually follow through with it? That's the question.
Did they want to anger a whole bunch of people by making them go through that reservation process.
Yeah.
And then having to cancel it because God
Mm.
knows what, especially Twitter would do. Um,
well,
like I said, they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
do we reopen even though we're gaining more and more cases, or do we completely just stop the reopening process and find a way to make all of these lost reservations and these tickets, from being. I know they stopped ticket sales, but they were talking about resuming them. I think at like the end of summer, and how are we gonna communicate to everybody like why we need to do what we did and all that. It's just a mess, honestly. It's a mess, and hopefully, I hope they do the right thing. But right now, I just don't see them, stopping, the process of reopening for Walt Disney World.
Yeah. It is. It's very sad to hear, but I agree too. I don't think they're already way too deep in
Right.
as it is. They've committed fully with the reservations and everything. I mean, Disneyland got caught early. They haven't even, from what I've heard,
We
they
hadn't
probably.
even.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, they hadn't even. We hadn't even got any information about reservations.
Yeah.
What's going to be available, what's not going to be available, how they're going to. I think they started refunds for the people that chose to just keep their regular date for when their passes expire.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure, considering that I didn't request a refund. But I would have to look into that. But like, it's definitely a harder situation for Florida, and I swear I hope that they do the right thing. But Florida really isn't setting a good example right now, so I wouldn't expect anything.
Does Florida ever set a good example for the United States?
No.
that is
They do not.
another conversation that I'm happy to have another time.
Well, like I mentioned, we're very excited to hear what you all have to say as well in the chat and the comments down below about Disneyland delaying their reopening. And of course, we didn't get the chance to even cover when Disneyland announced their reopening date, but there's no point now since they just canceled it either way. So, we all, like I mentioned, we all miss going to Disneyland, but we've said this, we were just going to be sounding like broken records at this point from just the past 50 episodes during quarantine when we started. Don't reopen Disneyland. Don't go to theme parks to help flatten the curve, you guys. Stay home.
Right.
Wear a mask. Even don't go anywhere. You can, if you want to go to Walmart, wear a mask, of course, but you can do mobile order. You can do.
I've been door dashing everything.
Yeah, DoorDash. God bless
Saved
DoorDash. Honestly,
everybody's life right now.
I know. I'm so thankful for.
I'm normally in New York, so we use Uber Eats and Postmates 24/7. So it's like everyone now is just discovering the wonders of food delivery on your phone. So.
Yeah, I'm sure business for those companies are booming at the moment. Good for them. Tip your drivers too, you guys. I feel like that shouldn't need to be said, but a lot of people don't. I have a lot of friends who deliver for that, and they don't get tipped well enough. Essential workers, tip your drivers, you guys. But anyways, I feel like that's a good place to put a pin in this conversation. Like I said, we'd love to hear your guys' thoughts as well in the comments and in the chat. Your thoughts on Disneyland delaying the reopening date. And on that note, guys, it's been a while since we've heard from our good friends over at Puckermint and over at theliveplace.com. And the graphic is probably going to lag out when I push it because I had to restart OBS. So this will be interesting. So before we get into our attraction retrospective, let's go ahead and pause to take a listen to the show's sponsors here. Oh my gosh, it played through perfectly fine.
Hey, it worked.
If you guys are wondering where you can find even more family-friendly live streams just like this one, head on over to theliveplace.com. The Live Place is your headquarters for great family-friendly live streams. They cover anything from Disney to other vacation spots, various variety shows, and have some amazing streamers like Resort TV 1 and myself. Also, be sure to check out puckermint.com, where you can find amazing pins and stickers. Puckermint is based out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, just a few hours from where I live. And since I'm a big believer in supporting local artists, we decided to partner up. Be sure to use the coupon code down below when you make your next order. Again, that's puckermint.com and pucker.
To prevent it from spreading is to not leave your house, but when you do, wear a mask. And that's it. That's all they ask. And, and so it's just like, so there's a lot of people out there that don't agree with me on that. And, I get it. Everybody wants to go back to Disneyland. Everybody wants to, to have fun again. And I really do too. But, there's things that take precedence. I have a stage light here that I'm going to turn on.
Alex, you're on the stage right now? It looks like a room.
I'm using natural light today.
I hope that's...
Although I can never get my hair looks like I'm wearing a toupee. I promise there's actual hair.
Let me yank on it right now to prove it's not a toupee. Pull it.
Like I will. I can't do anything about it.
There it is. It's real. All right. Well, yeah. Well, that has been Disneyland delaying the reopening, and now it is time, of course, to move on to everybody's, up-and-coming favorite segment, which we still don't have. You guys, we don't have a theme song for Attraction Retrospective yet. You guys need to, in the chat, in the comments, I'll pay you, whoever wants to make a theme song. But we are, of course, getting into this week's Attraction Retrospective. And Mr. Rodney, why don't you, since you're our special guest here, why don't you go ahead and reveal to the audience, I guess I spoiled it, from the picture, I'm sorry. But
You've already...
why don't you go ahead and reveal to what ride we're talking about today?
Peter Pan's Flight. No, I'm kidding.
Absolutely not. So I chose probably my favorite Disney parks ride, even though I've never ridden it. I will just expose myself right there. But I think, this is probably the epitome of good storytelling and making it effective to anybody that visits the park. And it's Phantom Manor. Of course, at Disneyland Paris, located in Thunder Mesa / Frontierland. There's just so many things I can talk about this. There's just so many good things about this ride, and they were made even better by that refurb that it had. I think like a year ago, that kind of cleared up points of the story. Just the fact that they took this iconic ride from the States, Haunted Mansion, and just thought, like, what if we put a story to this, and how can we translate it in a way that anybody that visits the parks, whether they speak English, French, Spanish, how can we effectively shape it in a way that it can communicate to everybody? And this is probably the best way they could have done that. It's kind of a classic story, a classic storyline. Girl falls in love with somebody that's poorer than her. Father disagrees. Father kills lover. And the bride goes into depression, just wanders around the house. Father ends up dying due to a mysterious curse caused by another iconic attraction across the way, Thunder Mountain, which is that alone is a great way to integrate a storyline into a theme park land, is by connecting stories between two rides. And Father comes back as this mysterious figure that we keep seeing around the manor, but we never really know who it is until they clear it up for us. It just I love that it keeps the core of the Haunted Mansion while just spinning it in a different direction. And I love that it's such a dark ride. You get the funny moments. You get the funny moments from Haunted Mansion. There's definitely aspects of the Graveyard Bash that are integrated into the what do they call it? I don't know what they call it, but I just call it like Hell Thunder Mesa because that's basically what it is.
Yeah.
It's hell. They don't say it's hell, but it's basically hell. Um, and the fact that it's they put that Western like flavor to it, with the shootouts and like the barkeeper, these scenes that are just recreated with the skeletons. I and like even going beyond the ride itself, the story behind it, Tony Baxter, this is probably, I would argue that this is probably the most iconic attraction that he's created, even though, it's not an American ride or American attraction. You can tell he put his whole heart into this, and into, Disneyland Paris in general, even though it wasn't effectively done the first time. But, I make it a point to everybody that wants to get into Imagineering, because this is how I got into Imagineering. One day, I was always into Disney. I just happened upon this weird ride that I never heard of in a whole different country, and I'm like, whoa! Like, I didn't know we had another haunted mansion. I didn't know there was other haunted mansions around the world, and there's a whole documentary about it on YouTube. I'm pretty sure people can find it if you search Phantom Man or documentary. But like seeing that it was inspired by the Phantom of the Opera and like Psycho with the house and the design of it, and those classic stories and how they had to translate a name for it that would fit every language and would communicate in every language. And I really do hope that one day I do get to have the chance to ride this ride. Right now, I'll settle for POVs. It's fine. I know it's not the same thing, but not everybody has the money to go to Paris at the moment, especially now. But like I said, if people really want to get into Imagineering and like the meat of and the core of what it is, definitely research this ride. And it's such a weird ride too. It's a weird ride, and it kind of haunts you in a way, not in a bad way, but it's very ethereal. You don't really, it's not really focused on the ghost aspect of it. It's focused on the heartbreak. You see Melanie Ravens everywhere in this ride, kind of mourning, not really partaking in any of the craziness that's going on around her, especially in like the ballroom scene. And that parallel between that one painting with her looking in the mirror and it's a skull that's coming out. And that's painted over the mirror, kind of signaling her death, right into the transition to, like I said, that kind of hell Thunder Mesa. And then at the end, you finally see her going towards the light and accepting that, like, it's my time to go, with her kind of creepily asking you, like, oh, do you want to marry me? Like, are you, my true love? And you kind of exit from there, and you're left with, like, this kind of heartbreaking story of, heartbreak, loss, and added with a little supernatural twist to it, and I really think that it's effective in that way.
I'm muted again, guys.
Oh.
It's happening. Well, I for one, I absolutely love Phantom Manor. I will also be the first to, I'm sure you guys know that I've not ridden this attraction. I'd love to, but I feel like a fake fan because this is one of the rides that I love, but I've not committed a lot of time to actually like researching this ride as compared to like other attractions. I've seen, of course, POVs of it. I know, like the basic premise of the attraction. So I'm very excited that that I have learned new things about this ride from Mr. Rodney here. But since this is your attraction retrospective, Mr. Rodney, I guess we can sort of ask some questions here as well. What is it about this ride that sort of draws you to it, that makes you just fall in love with it as compared to the other Haunted Mansion rides?
I'm a Haunted Mansion fan through and through. I think all the mansions are on par. quality wise. They all have a distinct flavor to them. They all have um, just one certain aspect that kind of draws me into them. With the two American versions, they don't really have a storyline, and I think that's good for guests to leave it up to the imagination. Those really only boil down to it's a retirement home for ghosts. There's just a whole bunch of ghosts that just saw this house. Like, hey, let's throw a party. There's a girl in a crystal ball that kind of sets everything up. Um, like even like Mystic Manor. Mystic Manor is not at all haunted or related to the supernatural, but it works. You have that kind of mysterious force and that kind of magic that just turns everything on its head and makes everything come alive, and that's effective too. But Phantom Manor, it takes all of these aspects, especially from the American parks, and just applies a story to it. And gosh, I really think that if they kind of in a way, if they did do a Haunted Mansion movie, I think they definitely should draw from Phantom Manor too. And they kind of did.
Absolutely.
If you in Haunted Mansion, the Eddie Murphy one with the butler killing Elizabeth, and they kind of switched roles with that. Instead of the daughter staying alive, it was Gracie who stayed alive, and he ended up being a ghost and haunting the house. So I think they definitely pulled inspiration from that. But just as a whole, it has so much uh, just cinematic story to it. There's so much lore that people really don't realize. This is probably one of the uh, richest attractions in Disney history, especially lore wise.
Yeah.
And many people don't know that. Many, especially American fans, don't know that. So yeah, that's probably the main reason why. And not even that, just development wise and imaginary wise. There's just a whole lot that I could say to this question, but I think in general it would be story wise, because they could probably write a whole book on this.
Or make a movie, yeah, like you said, just based on the ride.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a really great idea, actually, to use the story that is so fleshed out in Phantom Manor. I love, not to make anybody jealous, but I have gone on Phantom Manor.
Get out of here.
Not the current version, but the previous.
Right.
And I similar to you, Rodney, I think I was introduced to Phantom Manor there was a 35th anniversary CD, or 30th anniversary CD that was released in like 1999 of Haunted Mansion, and it had like a Haunted Mansion ride through, but it was the first time I was like, there was a ride through of Phantom Manor on it. And I was like, what?
Yeah, what? That's kind of...
Yeah.
Jeremy.
I know that I keep freezing. I was like, what is this? This is so cool. And I love the music and everything. I hope I'm back now. It says I'm back.
You're
I
back,
see myself.
yes.
Okay.
The music, especially, I think that's a good point. We were talking about music in regards to like Tiana and like Splash Mountain, but like this, I think it's scored by Danny Elfman. I'm not sure, but it sounds like him.
I believe it is John Debney, who's done a ton of Disney, and inspired by the Buddy Baker. It's inspired by the original. Yeah.
Okay, so no, not. Not.
But I see it. I see
but it has parallels to it. Definitely, it's very Tim Burton-y, and I love Tim Burton and those scores. And if you, I think, gosh, I always listen to the soundtrack because it's so haunting. And there's a theme. Hong Kong is Danny Elfman. Thank you. Mystic Manor is, I mixed that up.
That's
okay.
Right, yeah.
And there's just like a recurring theme in there that just keeps popping up. Not even Grim Ghost, but it's a totally original one. And the best piece of music, and in the ride to me. We use it for Haunted Mansion Holiday, I think, but they have it year round. Is Melanie's music box, and you can hear it
Yes.
going up to it. That's the music we use for Haunted Mansion Holiday in Disneyland, if you guys didn't know. And it's so beautiful, and it kind of draws you in. There's this mansion sitting on a hill, and I think they have a light effect in the windows too to simulate her walking around, and you hear this music box, and it just draws you in, and it's in an area that you wouldn't expect. Nobody expects a haunted house in Frontierland. That's just
Yeah.
it just wouldn't work out.
Yeah.
And that kind of ties into Tiana too. If they can make that work, they can make anything work, honestly. Um,
Tony
and
Baxter.
and right, it, literally love Tony Baxter, but yeah, definitely music wise, it's probably one of the best attractions too.
All right, amazing. Yeah, I just want to touch on, you mentioned the lore earlier
Yeah.
about I think the sort of subland is called like Thunder Mesa, I think is like the
Yeah.
subland in Frontierland. I've seen, I think it was Justin Scard who did a video in Paris a while ago, and he talked about that, and I am a total geek for like all that kind of lore kind of stuff, so I'm a big fan of all the work that they put into that. But Mr. Alex, did you have a question here that you would like to follow up with Mr. Rodney on our attraction retrospective on Phantom Manor in Disneyland Paris?
Well, I don't know very much about Phantom Manor, but I do have a question as to like what do you guys think is probably the most iconic thing about Phantom Manor, like the most iconic scene?
Ooh.
Oh, good
Dang,
question.
That's a
what-
tough
Because I
one.
mean, a lot of people say like Haunted Mansion, like they say the most iconic scene is like the ballroom scene.
Yeah.
But I know Phantom Manor has a lot of additional scenery in it. So what would
It's-
you say?
God, oh my God.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
tough. I mean, I'm debating.
because they-
Honestly, I'm debating
yeah.
between right.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm,
Jeremy died again.
This is such. This is
I
such
hate
a
my
complicated
computer.
question.
I hate my computer.
Stop sabotaging us.
Oh my Come on,
I
Jeremy.
know.
Bring it together.
Oh my God.
Okay, okay, I'm debating between when you see the Phantom laughing before you go down into Boot Hill, and also just the very end when she's pointing for you to escape. I don't know about you, Rodney.
Me, it's either the one where she's looking in the mirror.
Right, yeah, that's good too.
With the skull kind of superimposed on the mirror, or if it's they I think they added it. Isn't she on the staircase now when you load?
Yeah, she is.
That I think those two would either be an iconic scene. Anything with Melanie
And the
is
loading
an
area.
iconic scene. Yeah,
The loading area is iconic. Yeah.
yeah. Because with Disneyland's Haunted Mansion is really just like, I think it's supposed to represent like limbo or something.
Yeah.
And Walt Disney World is just a modified portrait room, and so is Tokyo. But that just starting the story off right there, just seeing her looking out to this like stormy night, and kind of being like, you're not really sure if she's a ghost or if she's alive, and you're loading on, and it kind of just introduces you to this. In a way, she's like the Raven that was supposed to be planned for like Haunted. He's still there, but he's not really important to the story. People think he's the host, but she's in a way, she's kind of like this like symbolic Raven guiding you through the story.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's interesting? I learned something a while ago about Phantom Manor, and correct me if I'm wrong because I am not a Phantom Manor historian. But from what I understand, the show building to Phantom Manor is basically has all the same architectural dimensions as the Disneyland version. And so the loading area for Phantom Manor is the same dimensions as our loading area for Disneyland, but they managed to fit that whole scene of the grand staircase and everything in there. And so I think there was even a point where a lot of Disney fans are like, well, then why can't they bring that to Disneyland and do that with ours? So I don't know. I thought that was a fun little fact, but I don't know if it's true or not.
I you know what, I haven't researched into that. I do know that the staircase is a lot of forced perspective. It's not a full staircase, you know. If you try to step on it, you're because it's pretty flat. It looks like. But I mean, if we could fit a whole mural in there for Haunted Mansion Holiday, I don't see why we can modify the the loading area. I'm all for modification to Haunted Mansion and making it better. Not an overlay. If they do overlay, I might have to start a protest or something. But you know, I definitely think we could learn Phantom Manor. We don't have to have a complete storyline, but I definitely think there's some aspects that all mansions can apply. Looking at it.
Yeah, and I mean, we have so much lost artwork. I mean, we can go back to Rolly Crump's sketches for the Museum of the Weird. There's a lot of Mark Davis stuff from pre-conceptual stuff. There's so much to go to if they want to plus Haunted Mansion in Disneyland.
I definitely think they should look into that. Maybe like for another anniversary, because I know we got Hatbox for 60th. And that was like, people thought that was never going to happen. Oh, it's just a myth. But I tell you, that was probably one of the best days of being like a Disney fan, was seeing that announcement. Everybody's like, oh, dang, like they're serious and they're coming full force with this. But yeah, you know, there's so many things you can plus the mansions with. Phantom Manor, God, I don't even know how you can improve Phantom Manor because it's already probably one of the mansions now.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, in my limited experience here of researching this attraction, I do feel like this is the superior version of, you know, every Haunted Mansion. Of course, Disneyland has the original, Magic Kingdom has theirs, and of course there's a. But then what's the one in and
Mystic Manor,
Mystic Manor, yeah. There's that one.
Mystic Manor, and you have a clone of Walt Disney World in Tokyo.
That's right.
In Fantasyland.
In fantasy, you see, in Fantasyland, you can fit a ride anywhere. Just try hard.
Boom!
It's possible. It's all coming full circle, you guys. That's where this show. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Well, anyways, I think. On that note,
before you end, I would be remiss not to mention Vincent Price's amazing contribution to Phantom Manor. Not only with his unused narration, but his laughs are still there. Yeah. And I recommend everyone go on YouTube and look up the recording session where he's recording narration in French, which they didn't use, but for good reason.
Don't they have all that?
His laughs are in there.
I think they restored it and then they applied it, didn't they?
Oh, they did.
Yeah.
The Vincent Price, the French? Vincent Price is French?
They brought it back for the new update, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, that's great. That's great. But there's still, you go on YouTube and watch the recording session of him doing that in the 90s.
What kind of researcher are you, Jeremy?
So,
I don't know anything
Alex,
about
go on
YouTube. I knew that.
Right, so Alex, go on YouTube and watch the recording session. Have you done that?
I have.
Oh, wow. He got you there, Jeremy. Checkmate.
I got him so good he went silent.
His mic cut out and he froze his webcam.
I froze. My CPU spiked.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think on that note, I've always wanted to visit Paris, and this has always been on my bucket list, one of the attractions that I've always wanted to experience. So hopefully,
I have to see Disneyland Paris. I have to.
Have to, absolutely. But
it's a beautiful park.
Yeah, hopefully sometime in the future. I'm sure it's expensive, but I think on that note, it's time to go ahead and wrap up this week's Attraction Retrospective. Thank you to Mr. Rodney for providing this great attraction for all of us to retrospect. Is that a verb? Retrospect?
It is now.
We making words here on the Matterhorn Mondays podcast. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you for providing this great attraction for us to retrospect on today. And I think on that note, it's time to wrap up this week's episode of Matterhorn Mondays. As always, links to all of the social media will be down in the description below. And do you guys have anything you'd like to say before we close off the episode today? One of you guys can just jump in and say something.
I'm sorry I missed the whole show.
It's okay, Alex. We forgive you.
There was a lot of news I wanted to talk about.
We can save it for...
I know.
For next
we talked
episode.
about it, though.
It's too late. Go back. Mr. Rodney, did you have anything you'd like to say before we sign off the episode today?
Just I'm happy that we got that Princess and the Frog ride. I'll eat crow. I was proven wrong. And I'm glad. I think we should all definitely look out and keep up with that, because I think it's definitely going to be a turning point in how Disney handles IP. And I'm just let's hope for the best. Let's hope that Disney and Walt Disney World find a way to open safely, and conditions will be better.
Yeah, and of course, everybody, please stay home if you have the chance. Help flatten the curve, everybody. We shouldn't be getting heat for saying that. That should not be a political thing to say. Stay home.
There's a lot of things that we shouldn't get heat for saying.
Yeah, okay. Anyways, well, stay home, you guys. Wear your mask if you do intend to go out. If you want to go to the grocery store, don't go to restaurants. You guys, over these past 3 months, I've discovered that going and sitting down to a restaurant is completely useless. Why do that when you can just get it delivered to your house and eat on your couch and watch YouTube videos? That is just amazing.
You do that pandemic or no pandemic.
Do that pandemic. That's true, but
he doesn't leave his house unless to go to his nightclub or whatever that thing is.
Nightclub, Alex, no, that's not. That's 100% not what this is. But
you know what it is.
Oh my gosh. No, I mean, yeah, I do that either way, but still, you guys, over these past few months,
he orders his McDonald's DoorDash.
I pay for the free what's it called? The free
delivery
on DoorDash, yeah, so it's worth it.
The Dash Pass, yeah, that'll save your life.
The Dash Pass, yeah. Well, anyways, I think on that note, we had a really great episode today, and stay tuned for next week's episode, of course, same time as always. We always love to hear to see you guys all come out live in the chat, and of course, links to everything, like I mentioned before, will be down in the description, as well as the links to all of the articles we refer to if you'd like to have more background, if you'd like to read deeper into maybe the topics we glossed over for the COVID headline rundown. But on that note, thank you all for coming to today's episode, and as always, have a great big beautiful tomorrow.